Hello. Today we're going back to 500k Invitational and we'll look at few hands played by the winner of this tournament, Alejandro Lococo. He is a different breed of an amateur player, he plays quite a lot and has a pretty good understanding of the game. He already has some great results like winning Eureka in Prague or making FT of WSOP main event, but shipping this high roller is on another level. First hand I want to show you is from day 2 of the tournament and it took place shortly before the bubble. Mikita Badziakowski, who was one of the chip leaders, raised ace-king from the small blind. He can be pretty aggressive and raise more than half of his hands. Lococo calls with Jack-10 suited and we can see that this is the only play with this hand in this situation. There is some 3-betting and jamming going on with hands like King-7 offsuit or pocket deuces, but this hand wants to see a flopping position. Mikita c-bet for around 20% of the pot and that is most used sizing on this board, but with hands as strong as ace-king it prefers to bet bigger. Alejandro called and that is the only play here. He shouldn't have many very strong hands on this board because aces, queens and ace-queen 3-bets preflop and queen-7 off should be folded. On the turn Mikita fired a second barrel, this time for 2/3 of the pot. Ace-king again prefer bigger sizing, but this one is also okay. Lococo, after using a few time banks, decided to push all in. Solver doesn't love that play, and almost never uses this sizing. It mostly calls and raises small with sets and 2 pairs. The only combo of Jack-10 that sometimes raises is Jack-10 of hearts. All other open-enders prefer to call this bet to see the river in position. This play is pretty crazy, but I guess you can't spell Lococo without Loco. And it worked because Mikita folded best hand here in a pot for a massive chip lead. Solver calls almost all aces in this scenario. Against some players, I understand that this might be an exploitative fold, but Alejandro is known for playing very aggro, so I don't know what Mikita had in mind. Small blind has a very wide range, and if he overfolds so hard against raises, then Lococo's play becomes much better. Second hand is from FT and starts with an open from first position. He has only one player that covers him behind, so he can open more than a quarter of hands here. Chip leading Daniel Dvores called this raise with Queen Jack off and this is okay, but we can see that Solver likes the 3-bet more, both with the whole range as with this specific hand. Now action is on Lococo and he decided to make a big squeeze from the button. He should be pretty tight here against only 2 players that cover him, and continue with less than 10% of hands. His value range with smaller raise is Queens plus and Ace-King suited, so he doesn't need a lot of bluffs, and Ace-Queen off and Ace-Jack off are a bit better because of their blockers. Solver sometimes finds a 3-bet with low suited aces, and Ace-Deuce is doing it most often. Our last hand starts with a raise from chip leading Lococo. He should open a little bit more than a third of his hands, and the Jack-10 suited is of course fine open, but I want to mention that he was much wider than that, because he was opening hands like 5-6 offsuit in almost the same scenario. Elias 3-bet with aces and we can see that his value range should be very tight, only kings, aces and some of the best ace-x hands. In reality, if he is aware of what Alejandro is doing, he might widen his range to punish too loose play. Lococo pushed his Jack-10 suited and ran into aces. When we look at a GTO range in this spot, we can see that Jack-10 suited should be just called, but jamming it is still better than folding. If his opening range is wider, he should also defend more hands against a 3-bet, but when he does that, he should think more about blockers. If 3-betting player will call him only with kings, aces and ace-king suited, then all his bluffs should have an ace or a king. He can also sometimes jam some lower pairs because they have more equity if they run against ace-king. Overall, it was a very good performance from Lococo. He didn't play totally crazy, but in many close spots where many players would take a more passive line, he was choosing violence. This is a much better approach than playing passive and calling to hit flops. With raising and bluffing he still can get lucky, but also win spots that don't belong to him. And we saw that even top players have a hard time calling in huge spots, even against players with such a reputation.
Tengo el rap que manda, pibe sobreviste, ¿entendiste? Porque el líder de la tabla soy yo, con flow, pongo...
That's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see you next time. Bye.